When was the last time you took an auto ride? Maybe this morning or maybe yesterday night. If you're a man in this country, you probably don't even remember. It is that easy and that safe for you. But if you are a woman, it's a whole different matter. A routine ride could end up in harassment, assault, or even worse. That's exactly what happened in Aurangabad on Sunday. A minor girl jumped out of a speeding auto to save herself from the driver. There was a CCTV camera near the road where it happened, and almost 3 days later, the video you're seeing on your screens has now gone viral. You can see the young girl throwing herself out of the auto in these pictures. You can almost sense her desperation and her fear. As for the accused, he has been arrested by the cops. But for us here at Mirror Now, this arrest is not the end. For you sitting at home, an arrest should not be the end. What happened to this young 17-year-old should make all of us angry. It should make all of us question why even in broad daylight, India's roads are not safe for its girls. It should make us question how anyone can ask a young girl obscene questions, threaten her, try to molest her, and think that he can get away with it. If you and I don't speak out, who will? Don't count on politicians. They will keep doing what they have consistently done in this country. Condemn, shed crocodile tears, investigate, say the law will take its own course, and then move on. There is no political will to dive into the root causes of these crimes, to remove perpetrators and predators from the streets of India. Today we actually saw a repeat of that attitude from the Chief Minister of Maharashtra. When Mirror Now confronted him, take a look at what he said.
सर, औरंगाबाद में एक लड़की का मोलेस्टेशन हुआ है। उसमें वो लड़की ने ऑटो से जंप कर लिया क्योंकि वो ऑटो ड्राइवर जो था उसको गलत शब्दों में बात कर रहा था, उसको बहुत आपत्तिजनक भाषा में बात कर रहा था। क्या कहना चाहेंगे?
ये दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण घटना है, उसको अरेस्ट हुआ है, कड़ी कार्रवाई उसके ऊपर होगी।
सर, आप क्या कहना चाहेंगे? पर लड़कियां सुरक्षित है क्या फिर महाराष्ट्र में?
उसके ऊपर कड़ी कार्रवाई होगी, उसको अरेस्ट हुआ है। ये किसी भी ये तरह से ये पुलिस जो है, गृह विभाग है, वो उसके ऊपर कड़ी कार्रवाई करेगी और निश्चित रूप से फिर दोबारा ऐसी हिम्मत कोई नहीं करेगा, ऐसा कार्रवाई होगी।
There will be an investigation. That was the Chief Minister's response when we confronted him. Tell that to the family who are praying for their daughter to pull through, or that young girl who was returning from her NEET class who is now battling to save her life, or to the millions of women and girls who spend their lives always on the edge, always looking over their shoulders. The fact is, promises are not enough anymore. In the last year, we have seen a 15% rise in crime against women. We need concrete action. We need to see that these predators are dragged to court and punished with the full extent and might of our law, not let someone away on flimsy excuses. I know what you're thinking, right? That this outrage looks very familiar to what happened after Nirbhaya in 2012, or the Hyderabad rape case in 2019, or the Kathua and Unnao rape cases. And the truth is, you are right. Because at one point, we all need to draw a line. We need to tell our politicians and our cops and our system that enough is enough. That was exactly the message from the victim's family in Aurangabad.
इस घटना को लेकर मैं ऐसे कहना चाहता हूँ, आज माझी बहन है, उद्या करून कोणाची आई बहन है, कल जाके किसकी माता है, भगिनी है, वो मेरे को ऐसी प्रशासनाचा और सबको सवाल है, वो सुरक्षित है क्या नहीं, वो उनकी पढ़ाई करना क्या नहीं करना, ऐसी सवाल है। अभी वो पढ़ाई, उसका माइंड इतना डाइवर्ट हुआ वाला है ये चीज़ से, तो वो कुछ अभी बोल भी नहीं सकते और कुछ नहीं। वो अभी आईसीयू में एडमिट है, उसकी मनस्थिति इतनी बिगड़ी, उसका जवाब कौन देगा अभी? इसी मेरी बात।
तो बहुत कठिन घटना हो गई, मैं सोच भी नहीं सकता था इस घटना के बारे में। मेरे लड़की के साथ जो ऐसा हो गया ना, उसको कड़क से कड़क कानून होना चाहिए। उसके बाद उसने कोई सी लड़की की तरफ भी आँख उठा कर देखा नहीं, और उसकी रोजी रोटी पर उसने ऐसा गलत किया, ये बहुत गंदा काम कर दिया उसने। तबीयत कैसी है? तबीयत अभी आईसीयू में सर है, वो अभी प्राइवेट हॉस्पिटल में।
What happened to this young girl is a classic predatory experience. The auto driver began with some uncomfortable questions. Then he proceeded to try and physically molest her. That's when this brave young woman jumped out of the moving auto. She knew her life was at risk, but she decided to take that action because she knew that if she didn't, something terrible could happen. Listen into the police officers describing how that entire incident played out.
रिक्शा चालक ने उसको अलग अलग तरह से सेक्स की बातें की। उसमें तुम्हारी उम्र क्या है, तुम क्या करना चाहती हो, तुम्हें सेक्स पसंद है, ऐसी बातें करने लगा। जब उस लड़के को शक आ गया, उसने सिलेखाना चौक में रिक्शा से कूद गई, तो उसकी वजह से उसको हेड इंजरी हो गई है, उसमें ब्लीडिंग हो गई है। उसकी ट्रीटमेंट अभी एमजीएम हॉस्पिटल में आईसीयू में चालू है।
You probably don't want to hear this. It sounds distasteful. But let me tell you what the auto driver told this young girl. He said, how old are you? Do you like sex? Would you want to have sex with me? And when she expressed her discomfort, he started speeding the auto. God knows what would have happened if this young girl hadn't had the courage to jump out of the auto. This is the situation we have put our girls in. My colleagues Shweta and Neha are joining me from Mumbai and Bangalore because this is a story on which we want to hear from you. Our phone lines are open. In fact, we are flashing our phone numbers on our screen, 022-6754-9446. Let me repeat that for you, 022-6754-9546. Please call us. I know this, maybe this is not your city, maybe this is not your daughter, maybe this is not your sister, but it very well could have been. Neha, I'm coming to you first. You're joining me from Bangalore. And I want you to speak to young girls and see what they are feeling about what has happened in Aurangabad, because what has happened in Aurangabad is not an isolated experience. Any woman on the streets of India, any young woman, middle-aged woman, old woman in India feels uncomfortable on the streets of India. And this was a young girl who was coming back from her NEET classes. So I'm fairly certain that girls in Mumbai, especially young girls who go to schools, go to colleges, have similar experiences. Now, I can very well argue that maybe it would not have happened in a bus if this young girl was taking a public transport. But we all know, Neha, as people who have taken public transport while going to schools and colleges, that even public transport is not safe. Yes, at least there you can raise a hue and cry and ensure that nothing happens to you, but even public transport is not safe.
Well, rightly put, Shreya, even public transport, like you said today, isn't safe. And, this brings us back to the question of the number of times that we report on issues like this and the number of times that we try and hold authorities accountable and promises are made to up women's safety in the country. But time and shameful incidents like these keep coming back. Enough said, I'm going to take this now straight to a few women over here who are joining us. Ma'am, I'd like to ask you today, a young girl in Aurangabad was forced to jump out of her auto after the driver, in fact, asked her if she would like to engage in a sexual act with him. As a woman, as someone, who has basic rights in this country, do you feel safe?
I would say not safe. At most of the places that I have traveled to or where I have to commute for work, because I have to be always on my toes looking out for myself. And that is something that is my basic right. I should not be worried all the time looking out for my own safety in my own country. But that is a fact. And I think it is because wherever you see in public spaces, I think they are male dominated. And we as women are intruders in those public spaces. And we do not own public spaces as women ourselves. So I think that's a big challenge for us. Wherever I travel, I have to keep a time in mind. I have to be back home by this time. For every city, there is a different time curfew for us. So I think we need to change that. And I think we need to change the male dominance of all those public spaces and travel spaces and make them more female accommodated.
Okay. Ma'am, a quick question to you as well. You know, she went on to say something very pertinent about how today it continues to remain a male-dominated society. How important do you think today it is for this mentality to change, one? And secondly, a lot of promises have been made over the years by different governments about upping women's safety. Have you somewhere seen a graph of women's safety, you know, going up from probably terrible to maybe better now? Or does it still remain, you know, scary for you when you step out?
See, like in country like India, where we boast about, you know, women, our culture, rich heritage, girls being worshipped during Navratra, and such incidents happening. And even I have 2 daughters, so I have that fear in my mind. Like both of us are entrepreneurs, and we tend to take risk, right? So we need to travel also. But some way back in your mind, we have that fear. Okay, somebody is chasing, somebody is coming. So how do we need to take? Like, we are now grown-ups. Yeah. But then what about the young girls, college-going girls, school-going girls? They face these issues, molestations, and it's like they feel that it's something they have to go through it. So I really appeal all the men to give us that support, that environment where our young girls can, you know, freely roam around like how boys do, because this is a time of equality, and both the genders are contributing to Indian economy. So the same kind of freedom should be given to everyone. It's our right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Well, very articulately put, you know, there, Shreya, by these 2 women, in fact, you know, who happen to be entrepreneurs. They're young, independent women, but really, you know, how free are they when they roam on the streets is the question that we're going to continue to raise until such time that these incidents come down, if not are entirely stopped. Back to you.
Neha, thank you for getting us those voices, very articulate voices from Bangalore. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're seeing that video that is now viral on our screens. Just for a moment, put yourself in that girl's shoes. Here is a young girl who's in an auto. She takes an auto probably every day from class back home. She's asked questions like, do you like sex? How old are you? And the only way she can think, the only thing that she probably is thinking is, how do I get out of this auto? How do I save myself? Because the auto driver has suddenly started speeding. And at the back of her head, she's probably completely aware of what can happen. She thinks it's best to jump out, even though if you're seeing the street, it is not an empty street, it's a crowded street. There are other vehicles plying on the street. She jumps out. She's injured her head, just by the way. She has had head injuries. A good Samaritan, you are seeing him there, stops by immediately, asks for help, and then the girl is taken to hospital. This is where she's battling for her life. I hope we never see these pictures on our screens again, but I know for a fact that we will. You're joining us from Bombay, Shweta. Bombay at one point of time was considered safe for women, at least safer than Delhi. But Aurangabad is, 12 hours road distance away from Bombay. And I want you to ask young girls around you, with you, what they feel of the pictures that are coming out of Aurangabad and whether it resonates with their daily life and commute as well.
Well, absolutely, Shreya. While I'm standing here and reporting live, I'm seeing few girls returning back to their homes after taking tuitions. I'm near a housing society. In fact, I'm joined by a few mothers around me. In fact, even these people were discussing how horrible situation it can be for a little girl to understand that what could be the next move of an auto rickshaw driver where he's talking obscene. He's giving such remarks, and she knew that, next moment something can happen which cannot be, taken back. This is the reason why she chose to jump off the running auto. Imagine the kind of audacity she had to gather in herself to jump off the auto just to escape the man who was talking obscene, and she knew that what could be the next step. We are joined by a few mothers here. Ma'am, just before this interview, we were discussing about such sensitive case. What do you feel about the women's safety here, and especially when it comes to minor?
It's very unfortunate that such an incident took place, and you can see that it's not just minor. Ladies from all walks of life, they are not safe at the moment, Whether you're at home, you're traveling out, you're in the train, and see the public transport like rickshaw, it's not safe, like,
Exactly, and moreover, it's an open vehicle if we
It's an
see.
open vehicle. What if it would have been a closed vehicle, like,
Absolutely.
Such things keep happening every day. I think we keep watching the news like this every day. So the government should really take some strict.
I think, ma'am, there's no fear of law and enforcement here. Or what makes these men, repeatedly do such thing? If not, just less than a month, we reported the same thing from Thane also, where the girl ran from the auto rickshaw driver because he was talking such obscene things.
That is true. It's really very unfortunate.
Right.
I think girls should be more educated and they should be given some defense. It's not possible, but girls at parents at a young age should develop skill in their children. They should try to make the a girl child very brave, get her into some martial arts
Shweta.
and all that thing.
Well, this is one of the
Shweta,
resort.
we are getting callers. Thank you very much. We are getting some callers as well, Shweta. We have Aarti who's joining us from Pune on the phone line. Aarti, please go ahead.
Yes, this incident in Aurangabad is shocking. These sort of criminal activities are on an increase in our country because people do not fear the police anymore. I would urge Maharashtra police to bring that culprit to take the get arrest warrant for the culprit and get him within 24 hours. Otherwise, there is no fear going to be left. And these incidences will keep increasing.
Okay, he has been arrested. Aarti ji, he has been arrested, but what after that? Renuka, you're calling us from Bangalore. Please go ahead.
Ma'am, I feel we should not wait for the police to take action or, the government to take action. It is we who have to take action because, we as a lady, we just cannot, as women, we cannot sit and watch this horror on a regular basis. So I think we have to, like crowdfunding, I think we have to we have to do crowd gathering and we have to stone this kind of people. So I think only then, we will find some kind of solution. So I think we have to, like crowdfunding, I think we have to do crowd.
Those are very harsh words. Yatindra Pal ji, you're calling us from Bombay. Please go ahead.
Happened in Gujarat recently. The rapists were released in public view, garlanded and honored. So they are getting bolder to commit the crime against women. And the government is not serious about handling crime against women. Just as making a joke of the law. You see how many cases of politicians raping the girls is coming out. But what happens? So they are getting emboldened to do these crimes
we'll
again
leave it
and
there.
again.
Thank you very much. You're saying there is no fear of the law. Thank you very much for joining us. Lalita Kumaramangalam is former NCW chief. She's joining us on the broadcast. Dr. Meeran Borwankar is a former IPS officer. Importantly, she was the first woman commissioner of Aurangabad. She's joining us on the broadcast. Kasturi Shankar is an actor. She's an activist. And Khushbu Jain is a lawyer who is joining us as well. Meeran ji, I'm going to start with you. Zakia Sonam, I'm going to thank you for joining us as well. Dr. Meeran Borwankar, I want to come to you first. Please tell me that when you saw this incident, this video from a city where you were the police chief, what made you angry? I mean, many things have made me angry. What has made you angry?
My first feeling was fear for the young girl who jumped out and that the auto was speeding at a very high level. So I felt it would not be merely 2 or 3 sentences of sexual abuse, of using a language which the child felt threatened with. I felt that the girl must have protested and therefore that auto guy speeded up. I felt very relieved when people around came and helped the child and she was sent to the hospital. And my feeling that women and girls are not safe in India, not only at night, but even during daytime, makes me feel very sad, having spent 35 years in police, that where have we failed? I want to introspect, not only as a police officer, but also as citizens. So this is a very, this whole video, I think, has shaken everyone who has seen it.
Zakia ji, where have we failed? It seems we have failed everywhere.
I think yes,
75
Shreya.
years of India's independence.
Yes, I think as a society and as a country, we need to recognize that this is a grave crisis, and we need to adjust our priorities, to provide for women's safety and security. I think our priorities, we talk about bringing up women, we talk about, all kinds of women-related programs, but the basic safety and security we are not able to provide. She has jumped off the auto. We have had women who have jumped off running trains, mind you, Shreya, because they were threatened by sexual violence on a running train. So women have and these kind of incidents are becoming very commonplace, and it almost appears like as more and more women and girls are going out of home to study, to work, to live their lives, there's a kind of a backlash of patriarchy in our society, and men and boys need to be sensitized, they need to be educated. We need to address the mindsets, the way we view girls, the way we view women. We view them as sexual objects. We view them as commodities. We don't have, respect for women's equality. We don't have respect for women's human rights. So all this is a, major crisis where the community, where society, where government, where law and order machinery, everybody needs to come together and do their bit. Because it's not just about this, one girl in Aurangabad. It's all of us, women who are 60, right from, children, girls who are 2 years, 3 years old, to women who are 60, 70. Nobody is safe because the kind of incidents we read about in the media, which occur with a regular kind of a frequency. So I think India, we as a people, we as a country, we as a society need to recognize this. This is endemic. This is becoming like endemic in our society, and we need to address, multi-pronged kind of measures about education, about sensitization, about awareness, right from the school levels, going up to colleges, going up to, the informal sector, and sensitizing boys, men, women, even girls, everybody. And everybody needs to work together. And the law and order machinery needs to do its job also.
Zakia
The
ji,
fear of the law needs to come in.
Zakia ji, I often hear this. Every time something like this happens, and God knows it happens with alarming frequency. The one thing I hear is that mindsets need to change, that our boys need to be trained and taught. How long does it take to change these mindsets? We haven't been able to change this mindset in 75 years.
Yes.
The problem is that most predators think they can get away with what they are doing, which is exactly why they do it. And I know why most of them think that they will get away with it. I'm going to put that question to the lawyer on the panel and to the police officer on that panel, but let me quickly take a caller. This is Shankar Chatterjee, who's calling us from Hyderabad. Shankar, please go ahead.
Hello. Good evening.
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening. I am a very senior retired professor, traveled across the country and world. Just 3 years back, I am coming from Aurangabad and for academic work. I'm very upset for this type of things. In abroad, many countries I have heard Indian women are not safe, India is corrupted, honestly telling. Though I am a retired professor. But anyhow, I suggest Mirror now to monitor the incident, what punishment given this auto fellow. He may be having some power and he may come out tomorrow, I will forget all Indians. So I request Mirror now to monitor the case. Second thing, all vehicles, this auto rickshaw and private vehicles should be driven by the women. And for this, maybe red color or blue color or green color should be there, that women customers, women passengers may enter only women-driven vehicle. For this entire country, I suggest all these women panelists, you please take measures that all four-wheelers, three-wheelers, even two-wheelers should be driven by the women, and for that special color should be depicted on that, blue, green, or that.
That is not a solution. Mr. Chatterjee, respectfully, that is not a solution. That is not a solution, and I'll tell you why that is not a solution. You cannot divide this country into males and females. You cannot have an India-Pakistan between the genders. You cannot say that women will be safe only if they drive in women-driven autos. No. And why? We have Khusro who's calling us from Ahmedabad. Khusro, please go ahead.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening. Kudos to Meeran for taking up these sensitive issues, ma'am. This Aurangabad incident has been terrible, and it has been continuing from town to town, place to place. I think the main deterrent should be the punishment which a person should be meted with. The punishment is so lenient today that people have no fear in it. They feel it is a right and they will get away with it. There are lawyers to give him bail. There are politicians to side him. There are high-class people to side people, such punishers. So I think this is not something which is going right. Our judicial system also seems to be defunct at times during such cases. And the cases go prolonged for long and long time. And the memory of the people is also so short that this incident has happened. The Thane incident is forgotten. Now this incident will be forgotten. The Morbi incident is forgotten. It is good that you are taking up the cases and repeating it.
I agree with you.
But then the memory is so short.
Public memory is short in this country. We have the appetite to digest a lot. There are some things like the Morbi, I won't call it an accident. It was a murder. There are some things like the Morbi murder and what has happened to this young girl in Aurangabad that should not be forgiven. But do I think it will be forgiven and forgotten? Possibly it will be. Because public memory, as I said, is short and we are very good at digesting all sorts of tragedies. Gurbinder, you're calling us from Noida. Go ahead.
Hello.
Gurbinder, if you can hear me, go ahead.
Yeah. See, I'm just been reading this news and I'm watching this video. One is really shocking. It's not about what is happening in Aurangabad in particular, but it is actually happening across the country. So we cannot blame a particular city, but it is all about the human mentality, which has to be attended. For me, it is more about how the education is happening at a school level, to the young children. What are we educating? How good is our education system today? Because all these remedies about the auto rickshaw. I was just hearing somebody talking about this color auto rickshaw. This is stupidity. We have to talk about equality here. This is really pained me when I see. I have a young daughter at home. I can feel the pain of the father, feel the pain of the parents. What they've gone through. This has been reported. My point is that a lot of incidents which go unreported. The reason why the women are feeling unsafe because we don't have those systems in place. I'm really shocked. That we make comments and then we just move on with life. But nothing changes. Nothing changes. I stay in Noida and in the night.
You're right. We just move on. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Thank you very much, Lalita Kumaramangalam. This is every parent and any parent's nightmare. Here's your daughter preparing for a competitive exam. This is a road she has taken many times for months now. This is a road she's familiar with. She's finishing her NEET class. She gets into an auto. She thinks it's safer than public transport. Heaven knows, Lalita ji, what happens to women in public transports. They are molested, they are pinched, they are shoved. We know what goes on.
Yeah, Shreya,
and it's almost like we internalize it and think to ourselves, ye to hota hai.
Exactly. It looks like we failed as a society across the board. This is not about state or religion or caste or age or even education levels. In the last 2 days, we've heard about 3 cases. That unfortunate girl who was chopped into pieces. This little child, not child, but very young girl who was forced to jump out of an auto. And the other girl who was also killed. by a lover. Now, we can't just say that it's only about men. There are enough women who are also equally patriarchal and who cover up for the sins of the men in their life, whatever the reason for it may be. I agree with what Zakia said, that we need to seriously introspect and we need to tackle this on a war footing from many, many fronts. We need to shore up forensics. We need to not just educate our young men and women, but also the police. The DV complaints, domestic violence complaints, are hardly ever made because they get such a lackluster reaction from the police. As head of NCW, the number of domestic violence complaints I've dealt with, whether it's a young girl or a middle-aged woman or an old mother, it's alarming the way we look at women. Women are not trained also to stand up for themselves. Women are not trained to be careful. And sometimes I feel it's very unfair that it's always only the women who are supposed to be careful. The men, most of them today, and I said this just yesterday in another show, 4.1 billion people. And I would say 90% of us are still very, very patriarchal. We talk about women's empowerment, but we don't really train them. We don't give them the support, whether it's social, whether it's political, whether it is from the courts, and whether it is from the administration also, and from families and societies. It's always like, theek hai, ye ho gaya, not theek hai, ye ho gaya hai, it's terrible, we condemn it. And then we move on to something else. Nirbhaya was almost, 10 years ago. And look, what has happened. We have courts who just give bail, whatever the reasons may be, whether it's political, whether it's because they feel sorry for the person or they've been in long enough. What happens to those young girls whose lives have gone, whose families have been shattered? And what happens to the mentality of women in this country? Most of us are terrified. Even people like me, I am extremely careful when I go out, especially after dark, even at this age. It's disgusting. It's pitiable. It's really, one of the worst things that any woman has to go through is to always feel so scared.
Tell you what?
I live alone. Even then, I will
tell you what, as a professional,
woman at all.
As a professional,
even I am so careful, so I can
Lalita
understand
ji,
what everybody is feeling now. And
even
I
I'm careful,
really
Lalita
need
ji.
to work together.
Even I'm careful, and everyone on this panel is careful as well.
This is not
when
going to
I
be
go
solved.
back home, Lalita ji, even I'm careful.
Yeah.
When I finish work
Why
at
should we?
9:30 and I'm going back
careful
home,
is fine.
I'm careful,
But
and
not
I
to
know
this extent.
my parents are worried. Yes. My parents are
Absolutely.
worried. They'll call me and ask me if I've reached home safely. And
I
that
do
is
that
not
to
just
both
my
my
parents or my
daughters even
family.
now.
It's every girl's parent and every girl's family. After
Exactly.
75 years of independence, this is where we are. We have spoken a lot about women empowerment, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao. A lot of stuff has gotten said. A lot of slogans.
Despite all that, we have a very, very long way to go.
It's endemic, and it is a telling picture of where women are in this country right now. I want to go across to our reporter because I know that people are watching these pictures from Aurangabad, and I know a lot of young girls for whom these pictures are resonating. They may not have taken the extreme step of jumping off a speeding auto and landing up at an ICU, but many of them who take public transport or who take autos, who are just on the streets, negotiating and navigating their everyday lives, going to school, going to colleges, going to work. These are experiences that every woman has had in every part of this country. Some parts are safer than the others, but every woman has on multiple occasions, irrespective of what age she is, gone through this unpleasantness and something that just pushes you to be always careful and look behind your back and look over your shoulder. Let's go across to Ishika, who's in Delhi, and she's with some young people as well. Ishika, it's over to you.
Yes, so clearly, what happened today, the girl had to jump out of the auto. She had to risk her life for her modesty. And this definitely might have happened in Maharashtra, but concerns every girl here all around the country. I'm standing here with some of them. I will go straight across to them. So you heard the news, how the girl had to, climb out of the, auto to save her modesty. What do you have to say on that? it is very disappointing that on one hand, the government and people in power keep on promising us our safety and security, and on the other hand, these cases of rapes and harassment keep on increasing day by day. If we take the example of Delhi only, then one woman is raped every 5 hours. So obviously there is a flaw in the system somewhere. If strict actions were taken against these molesters, then the situation wouldn't have been as bad as it is today.
So we definitely, heard, how this happened in Maharashtra, but बहुत सारे cases ऐसे भी हैं जो दिल्ली में भी होते होंगे. आपने भी कुछ face किए होंगे. कुछ आप ऐसे incidents जो हुए हैं वो बताइए.
हाँ, दिल्ली में तो हुआ है. मेरे साथ तो नहीं, बट मेरी जो फ्रेंड्स है या जो मेरे फ्रेंड सर्कल में उनके साथ हुआ है. आप कैंपस एरिया तो जानते होंगे ना, वहाँ पे अगर आप जाइएगा तो रात में वहाँ पे गर्ल्स अकेले नहीं जाती है. वो चाह के भी आप देखेंगे तो या तो वो ग्रुप में जाएंगी या फ्रेंड्स के साथ. और ऐसा एक केस है मेरे सामने कि कुछ गर्ल्स जा रही थी रात में, उन्हें कुछ गाड़ी वालों ने मतलब गंदे वर्ड्स या जो भी होता है या उनका पीछा किया. फिर वो कंप्लेन भी करी, बट कोई अभी तक ऐसा नहीं दिख रहा कि हाँ बहुत ज़्यादा उसमें प्रोग्रेस हुआ या सुधार हुआ. आप अभी भी जाओ तो रात में उनके साथ ऐसा प्रॉब्लम होता ही है. तो जब हम बात करते हैं बहुत ज़्यादा सेफ्टी दे रहे या क्या कर रहे हैं, तो उसमें अभी हम लोग को कुछ उतना दिख नहीं रहा कि हाँ मतलब गवर्नमेंट या जो भी इतना इन्वॉल्व हो रही है. क्योंकि अब जब केसेस रोज हो ही रहे हैं तो आप कैसे बोल सकते हैं कि हम बहुत ज़्यादा एक्शन ले रहे हैं या नहीं. जब तक ये सुधरेगा नहीं फिर इसमें हम नहीं कुछ कह सकते हैं.
सो डेफिनेटली हम जो देख रहे हैं वो हम देख रहे हैं कि गवर्नमेंट जितनी भी आती है वो सबसे पहले एक प्रॉमिस करती है विमेन की सेफ्टी को, पर आज देख रहे वही सिस्टम फेल हो रहा है.
देखिए हाँ, जैसा कि आपने बताया कि जब गवर्नमेंट्स आती हैं, जैसा कि अभी हम एमसीडी के चुनाव की भी बात करें तो दिल्ली में कोई भी गवर्नमेंट आएगी या कोई भी पार्टी है वो बात करेंगी वुमेन सेफ्टी की, मगर हम कितने सुरक्षित हैं ये तो हमने अभी देखा. जैसे कि लड़की को अपनी जान बचाने के लिए रिक्शे से कूदना पड़ा, ऑटो से कूदना पड़ा. ये बताइए कितना गंभीर मामला हो सकता है कि उसको अपनी जान दांव पे लगानी पड़ी जब उसको ऑटो में मॉलेस्ट किया जा रहा था. तो कहीं ना कहीं जब ऐसे केसेस आते हैं तो देश की हर बेटी की सुरक्षा का सवाल, देश की हर बेटी की सुरक्षा पे सवाल खड़ा हो जाता है. जैसे कि मैं अपने माता पिता से 800 किलोमीटर दूर रहती हूँ, तो जब भी कोई भारत देश में ऐसा केस आता है तो सबसे पहले उन एक बेटी के माता पिता की चिंता अपने आप बढ़ जाती है. और आप बताइए हम ऐसे कब तक देश में असुरक्षित महसूस करके जिएंगे. हम देख रहे हैं खुली सड़कों पे ऐसे केस हो रहा है, घरों में ऐसे केसेस हो रहे हैं. तो आए दिन जब ऐसे केसेस हो रहे हैं तो हमारी जो सुरक्षा कर्मी है, जो हमारे पुलिस फोर्सेस है, वो कहाँ है? कब तक और हम ऐसे हमारी खुद की जो सेफ्टी है उसको दांव पे लगाएंगे?
So you clearly heard the voices here. They are saying that such incidents, whether or not it happens in the national capital or it happens in any part of the country, it definitely raises the concerns of the parents. And a bigger question is on the law enforcers. What are they doing? And the government that promises, every government that comes in and promises safety for women, why are they sleeping till now? Over to you.
Thank you very much. Khushbu Jain, I want you to come in here. You're a lawyer of the Supreme Court, and I know we have a lot of callers. I will ask all our callers for a little patience because this is a question I really want to ask Khushbu. Khushbu, you remember Soumya Vishwanathan's case. She used to be a colleague of mine. She used to work for us. She was going back home in Delhi. She was going back home about 3 o'clock at night. She had finished her work. She was on a night shift. It's what women do, right? Across sectors. You have shifts and you don't put up your hand and say, I cannot do a night shift because I'm a woman. You're a professional, you need to do it. And she's shot dead. And I remember what Sheila Dikshit, God bless her soul, had said at that point of time, that my God, at 3 o'clock at night, this girl is, stepping out. This is a city where girls don't need to be that adventurous. It is not a question of being adventurous. It is not even a question of choice. You have to negotiate public spaces and roads. And there is something that a young girl from Delhi has said, which I think resonates with everyone, that, you are harassed, you are molested, you go to the police station, they will discourage you from filing a complaint. And even if a complaint is filed, you never hear back from the police. It's happened with me. It's happened with, I think lakhs of women across this country. Because it's too petty a crime. Kaun dhoonde jaake? Kya hua maximum for the police? Just molestation, some bad words were spoken, someone touched someone inappropriately. So what? This is not something that we need to waste our time on. Which is why most women and most girls I know prefer not to go to the police station, prefer not to complain.
Absolutely, I completely agree with the earlier panelist and what you say. I exactly resonate with that. But see, one has to understand what we're talking about is the Sheila Dikshit tenure. Then we are talking about Nirbhaya, and today we are at the same stage. There is no difference today also. So this victimizing, punishing the victim or harassing the victim has been going on since ages. And if I tell you my personal thing, I've been telling that if a lawyer has to go to the police station with a victim, then problem is not solved, because police station is for the people. You don't need lawyers for that. So that's where one should understand the problem. So now coming back, see, we need a very strong legislation. I understand that every spare needs amendments or needs some changes, but I would say let's start with legislation. We do need strong legislation that recognize sexual harassment, that recognize assault as a very heinous crime, or outraging a modesty of a woman as a heinous crime, and the punishments should not be 1 year to up to 3 years of imprisonment or fine or both. It should go it should have a deterrent impact on people, that they fear before committing such kind of things, that they would not go scot-free or they would not be free. One. Second comes the enforcement part of this. How smooth enforcement should be, and how victim friendly the law enforcement agencies should act. And the third that comes is we need to understand jurisdiction aspect. We have to have a speedy trial when it comes to these kind of crimes, because see, half of the people don't go and report. Somebody earlier before me spoke about that there are so many matters which are not reported, because see, even if I am harassed a little or there, I'll be more harassed with the process. It will have more public view than anything else. So I think right from reporting till the time it gets solved should not take much time. It should be very speedy. Now, third comes is when it comes to duty of the state. See, these are the areas we're talking about, public places. And public places is not just for men, it's for everybody, every age group, every sex. And it's the duty of the state to make that place accessible for everybody to enjoy equally. Now, if I talk about public places, see, we are talking about auto rickshaw, we are talking about bus, we are talking about train, we are talking about walking on the street. So if I talk about specifically to the age that we are in, we need to involve, or the government need to take care of state-of-the-art technology to be involved when it comes to public places, where they can identify areas where crimes are reported frequently and install panic buttons over there first. Second, what you can do is you need to have panic buttons installed in the public transports, which can be accessed easily. And if that panic button is put, it can reach to the nearest police station and the police van, and help can be provided immediately. Third, you need to give public transport vehicles like auto rickshaw, buses, and other places a QR code or a radio frequency identifier, RFID tags, so that they can be tracked speedy. So that, let's say there is a call that has gone, even if there is a message or a panic button, they can be traced immediately. So that RFID code or a QR code should be provided in those vehicles. The third which we can do is especially like auto rickshaw and buses, when you provide this RFID thing, if this should be a mandate, like the way you take license to run a rickshaw, there should be a mandate which should be provided. Or there are other countries which have by default provided that manufacturers of the public transport need to provide specific RFID a chip in the vehicle, which is part and parcel of the system. And if any complaint comes to the police or law enforcement agency, that number, if it can be tracked. So I think all these things should have been done long back, but nonetheless we should act, and it cannot be specifically let's do it for Delhi or let's do it for Bombay. I think all tier 1, tier 2 cities, at least tier 2 cities, you should do it immediately.
We cannot wait, and we cannot wait for something like Aurangabad to happen for us to have this conversation. The point is that we are not having this conversation often enough. There is not enough pressure on the governments and municipalities and politicians to act. It's as simple as that. Beti bachao, beti padhao bol diya, and that is enough. Even, are we asking for accountability? Are we asking for accountability? Is there a fault in us as well? Will the people of Aurangabad ask for accountability next time their neta comes to them for a vote and says, please vote for me? Will they ask for accountability and tell us why a young girl, a 17-year-old, had to jump out of an auto to save her life? It's as simple as that. As citizens, we need to seek accountability as well. And we need to have these conversations often enough and keep the pressure often enough. Kasturi Shankar, I'm going to request you to wait. By now, I'm fairly certain you have seen that horrifying video that has come to us from Aurangabad, where a young girl, a 17-year-old, returning from her NEET class in an auto, had to jump off the speeding auto because of what the auto driver did. He had an uncomfortable conversation with her. It wasn't a conversation. It was just a string of questions. How old are you? Do you want to have sex with me? The girl felt uncomfortable. The man sensed it. The auto driver senses it. He speeds up. The girl fears for her life. She fears something horrible could happen, and possibly it could have happened. She jumps off that speeding auto. And well, she hits the streets of Aurangabad. There you see her. There are severe head injuries. The girl is recovering in ICU. The news we are hearing from Aurangabad is that the girl, thankfully, is out of danger. A prayer of 1 billion plus people really with her. But, you know, here's hoping that something like this, we don't see something like this ever on our screens again, but I know that we will, given the state of our streets here in India. I'm going across to Dharani, who is joining us from Chennai. Dharani, over to you. Tell us what women in Chennai are saying. Chennai is supposed to be way safer. The south of India is supposed to be way safer than the north. But these are issues that women across this country feel, irrespective of whether you're living in the north or the south or the east or the west.
Well, that is very true. Chennai is, called as the safest city almost after Kolkata in India. But however, in Chennai also at times we come across incidents of molestation and assault. And right now I have some women from Chennai standing with me, and they have come to know about this Aurangabad incident through television screens, and we'll talk to them. So you would have come across this Aurangabad incident where this girl had to jump off a running auto to save her life and to save her from getting assaulted. So what is your first reaction to this incident as a woman?
We just got the news about what happened in Delhi with Ms. Shraddha, and in the wake of this horrific incident, we are also now getting to know about this incident in Aurangabad, and I think it's very difficult for people to process this. As a woman, I'm extremely shocked, but at the same time, it could be any of us. So that thought is also resonating with me, and I'm happy that this girl had the presence of mind to to try and escape from this auto, and it's very shocking ultimately.
So, ma'am, what is your first reaction to this? I know we all have daughters in our houses, and how does it make us feel to see these kind of incidents?
The thing is going on everywhere and every place. This is not the first time. This is from the ancient era we are getting this problem. So first of all, we need to teach the girls to be brave, and they have to be honest to their parents to tell about these things, and they need to speak up in a society. And moreover, here what the incident is going on is not this one. So there needs to be having a friends or somebody is supposed to be accompany the other this one.
So when we talk about this Aurangabad incident, so this auto driver is not known to this girl. Like she would have taken that auto with some kind of she needed to travel somewhere, so she took that auto for the purpose of traveling. So she was so what do you think about this?
Anybody can do that. Like any teenager could come from tuition class, and it's not safe. Where is a place you can say that it's safe? So, women should carry some of the things for themselves. Like pepper spray is available. Even in Amazon, if you go, it's available there. And there is an emergency number 181, and the government is provided. So, these are few things that have been provided by government, and SOS app is there that can be used so that the nearby police station comes to know about it.
So I think So I think as far as we talk about women having precautionary items in their hands, we should also talk about the men of this country, like how they should be brought up and how they should treat other women, and especially minor girls like these. So that is the thing that we are trying to put forward.
And but I just want to say this. Thanks, Dharani. Thanks for getting us those voices. And I really want to say that the idea of this campaign and this program is not to bash men in this country, because if you take a look at the person who actually helped the girl, just take a look. He's a man on a motorbike, and he's the one who stops immediately, sees this girl in trouble, and ensures that she gets to a hospital. So the aim is not to bash men on this show. The aim is to ensure that the roads are safe for women in this country, that public transport is safe for women in this country, that homes are safe for women in this country. Kasturi Shankar, I just heard a lady from Chennai say that probably parents need to ensure that they are accompanying their daughters, you know, when they're out on the streets, going to school or going to tuition classes. Again, that's not a solution. That is not a solution, Kasturi.
We cannot become, even Saudi Arabia has done away with the rule of having a male companion being with a woman at all times. That is not safety. That will end up being more oppressive to women. I'm the mother of a 16-year-old. That child could have been mine. It is absolutely, it churns my stomach to think of such incidents still happening, as you said, still happening in 2022. Women have, with great difficulty, come out into society and are very slowly but steadily claiming their rightful place in education, in public life. And then these kind of acts, which put women's safety, children's safety in question, will make us regress so many years backwards. So yeah, it is so important for India as a society to keep its women safe. So I'm going to say, number one, I have to tell you something. I was in Aurangabad during Christmas time 3 years ago. And at 10 o'clock at night, I was returning from Aurangzeb's mausoleum. And I happened to take an auto because that was the only thing available in the middle of the night. And that auto broke down. So they put me in another auto, and I had my at that time 14-year-old daughter with me. This was an auto driven by a Muslim brother. He refused to take any other, it's a share auto. He refused to take any other passengers. There were two drunk guys trying to get on. He basically yelled at them and said, "Get off my auto, don't come into my auto if you don't have respect for women." He called me his sister, made sure that I went to my hotel room safely, called me afterwards and said, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need anything else for the next 3 days?" So, I'm bringing this up because to me, Aurangabad was the safest city, and the Muslims in Aurangabad treated their women like sisters. This is the idea I had in my head. And to see this today is so heartbreaking for me. It's so heartbreaking for me. Out there, I see on social media, people are saying, "Oh, what else can you expect in a BJP-ruled state? What else can you expect from a Muslim guy?" This is not about that. This is about exceptions. At the end of the day, at least I'm happy to see that everybody rushing to that girl's help. Humanity is not dead. It's not, that auto driver is not the rule.
Humanity
is the exception to
yes,
the rule.
Humanity is not dead. Kasturi, I agree with you. Humanity is not dead. We have seen that in the video as well. But what is clear from the picture that has come is that what has happened is telling, and it is pointing us to a direction. And it is telling us that whether you are 10 years old, 15 years old, 18 years old, or 80 years old, you need to be careful on the streets of your own city and your own country. If that is not unfortunate, I don't know what is. We all need to have these conversations more often, and we all need to ensure that we don't disregard and overlook incidents like the one that has happened in Aurangabad or any other city in this country. We'll leave it there for the moment. I'm going to thank my guests for joining us, all our reporters for joining us, and apologize to all our viewers who've been calling us and we haven't been able to take their calls. Thank you very much. It's a wrap from me. Good night.